Hi everyone. Um, I have to whisper for today's video because it's 1 a.m. But I hope you don't mind. Anyways, topic of discussion for today is a very interesting article I've read, which is that people who grew up watching Naruto, the anime, or read the manga Naruto, they have a very good understanding of resilience, and there are a lot of actually research articles that tune into the anime and tell you that this is certainly true. So I decided to look into it and I found pretty interesting things that, advocate for actually watching the show. So, where do we start, right? So, for everybody who did not watch Naruto, Naruto essentially is a story which follows Naruto Uzumaki um, from age 8 to 10 to him becoming a Hokage, that is the highest order of a ninja, at age 30 something. So Naruto's goal from the very beginning is to become a Hokage, that is to become the strongest ninja in his village. And the story is quite long, right? And because the story is so long, people who have been following Naruto for years can relate that growth is incredibly hard. And the research paper argues that because you have so many arcs in Naruto's story, that you as a viewer, you have kind of like some conscious form of resistance and persistence that you can use in your daily life. So, two frameworks that these researchers name for the story in Naruto is one Gambaru, which is persistence. Again, I don't speak Japanese, so apologies. And persistence essentially just means that if you face difficulties, you just push through, right? You're just not giving up. And then there's another framework they tune into, which is Nintai. And essentially, it's just having the capacities to suffer through things. That's it. And the thing is with Naruto's growth is that it's very slow. And we can all relate to Naruto because Naruto does not have talents, right? So the whole ninja world in Naruto is divided by people who, have certain techniques they have from clans. And then there are people, who need to like redo everything because they have no one to work with the techniques. And Naruto's the latter case because he's an orphan, and he is outcast by his village because he has a curse sealed to himself, which his dad sealed. That's no, I'm not gonna know that. Anyways, the point is, he was disliked. He was incredibly bad in school, and also in terms of like physical strength. And it is not until he is paired into a group, which is called Group 7, with essentially his anti-protagonist Sasuke, which I think people do know about, and Sakura. And essentially this group is his first little family, along with his mentor, Kakashi. And from there you kind of see a growth of Naruto because he has found an environment. And the research article also, stresses the importance of finding people that you can train with, learn with, relate to. And Naruto is able to do that over the years. Like, it's not easy for him to do so, but at the very end, to become a Hokage, you need people to love you, right? And Naruto was able to do that. And it was not only that he was able to find mentors, but it was also the fact that he was able to give people a second chance, even though he was suffering himself, right? Because imagine you're an orphan and people hate you for things that you can't control. And over the years, you learn certain things about yourself and about the village, and you still have the courage to, be nice. That is something that we see with certain characters in Naruto, that they're just not doing it. They are consumed by hate and by pain. And Sasuke, for instance, is the biggest example So if you read a bit into Naruto, you know that Sasuke, from the very beginning, he's also an orphan, but that is because his brother decided to kill his clan. And because of the fact that his brother killed essentially his whole family, Sasuke swears to himself that he will become stronger and hunt Itachi down, his brother. And Sasuke does that, right? So he leaves Naruto, and they go separate paths, and they do meet at the very end, actually, of the manga series of Naruto Shippuden. And he still convinces Sasuke to come back to his village. Even though Sasuke left him and, he actually threatened him, he tried to kill him. Naruto forgave him, surprisingly, right? So it's also interesting to see that because you're able to grow with people who believe in you, that you change your emotional factors or your emotional intelligence. Because now you start to see more in people that you might previously have not seen, because you start to understand yourself. Now, the research paper calls this post-traumatic growth, and it is also actually proof that if you go through a traumatic event and then you start learning from the event what impacts it had on you and so on, you actually become quite clear in what had happened and what you felt. And this process, or like the ability to process feelings, increases your emotional intelligence, because you can describe what triggered a certain feeling, what the consequences were. And I feel like Naruto's characters, or the characters who got redemption, a second chance by Naruto, they all changed for the better because they were given a second chance. Because when they took the second chance by Naruto, they started to understand their own pain because someone was able to relate to them, and that is Naruto. And so again, for people who watch Naruto, right, to see that even the worst people can have a second chance because you start to understand them is a huge thing, because your world suddenly is not divided into white and black morals, but more into like gray area, where you need to understand that life is about taking or making difficult moral decisions. It's not that easy to judge everybody or every conflict, for instance, in our world based upon a few facts. Like, you need to establish a framework and understand what's happening. And I feel like Naruto shows you these frameworks so well. Like, it shows you persistence, that setting your goals will take years and decades to achieve, that if you have a good environment, that you will change positively, that you can become a better person and be a catalyst for positive change. And it's all by just watching an anime, right? And people, like, I know from my experience, they were kind of like down talk animes and all that stuff because they feel like it's a cartoon. It has strong morals, actually, right? And I feel like in the future, when they will do certain statistics on certain generations being resistant and embracing growth mindset, I think there will be more evidence for people who have watched kind of like the classical animes, like Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, and have learned something from certain characters and implemented these learnings in their life. I think you will see that statistically speaking, they were able to use a resistance mindset. Now, I'm not quite sure how you can quantify the resistance mindset, but I guess, maybe by how well you earn, how happy you are with your life, your connections, relationships, all that stuff. But it's interesting, to have an anime, to have a character like Naruto train you essentially for years on these frameworks, only for you to realize that, you are essentially like Naruto and you are learning things and you need certain people to help you out because you can't do everything alone, and you're learning positive things that you apply. So yeah, I think it's a strong case for watching Naruto if you haven't done so. It's a nice story actually. Like, besides everything we've talked about, it has such a nice story to it, and it's so long. Like, you'll actually have a bit of a heartbreak when you're watching everything end. But that's also kind of like part of the story. Everything does end. So yeah, if you sticked around, thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Yeah, maybe I'll find more papers and just talk on, the correlation between watching certain shows and what you can do with the learnings from the show to your life. I do think it's important to know what entertainment actually trains you for life. Yeah, and that's it. See you for the next video.